Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where Karens boss regular Joe Schmo customers around thinking that they're employees. And in today's episode, a Karen makes a huge mistake by messing with a deaf customer. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's lineup of ridiculous stories, and do remember to hit that subscribe button for future stories. So I work for an airline as a flight attendant. However, I was heading to a friend's wedding in Hawaii, so I wasn't working that week. I decided I was gonna fly that airline I work for since I get a discount and it's a good airline. I get on the airplane no problem and we take off. A little after takeoff, I notice someone I recognize, and that person turns out to be John. I was recently working on a flight with John. I see John sees me, a conversation starts. We talk about our lives outside of a plane and whatnot, and suddenly a Karen appears and she chimes in on the conversation. Now at first, she wasn't rude, just kind of joining in on the conversation. Weird, yes, but rude, no. Karen says, "Oh, how do you two know each other?" At this, John says, Mark and I worked on a flight together a week ago." At this point, John signaled to us that he's gotta go, and had to go off to assist other passengers who have hit the call button. Karen says, "Oh, that sounds fun. Mark, why aren't you in uniform?" At this, I say to her, "Well, I'm not working this flight." Now, I was expecting her to say nothing, as that should have been the end of the story, but Karen says, "But you're a flight attendant. You should be in uniform and serving the passengers, should you not?" At this, I say to her, "No, I'm off this week to go to a friend's wedding, actually. I'm not working." Karen says, "But you do work for this airline, don't you?" I tell her yes, but I'm off duty. "So you do work here? In that case, can you get my boy some water?" I tell her no, I actually can't because I'm not working on this flight. I can't just go rummaging through things while not in uniform. Now at this, Karen says, "Yes, you can. They'll understand that you work for the airline, and as a flight attendant, you serve me. You're not in uniform and you're refusing me service?" Now, I guess John had heard the commotion, and thank the Lord he was getting Piper, who was a superior on the flight. Piper comes up to us and says, "Ma'am, you need to stop bothering the passenger on this flight. He's clearly not working." Now, I didn't know Piper before this, but we did become friends after this. Karen responds with, "No, this man is an attendant. He's the one being indecent." I tell her I work for the airline, but I'm not working on this flight. I don't work this week, and I'm off duty. Piper then asked me if I'd like to move, and I told him, yes, please. Eventually, we found someone willing to switch with me, and this person just happened to be Karen's husband, who got separated due to late booking, I'm assuming. So I lived the rest of my flight in peace. Now, you would think this was over, but it wasn't. So after I landed, I got off the aircraft and was headed to the food court because I was hungry. I'm casually eating my sandwich when I'm approached by airport security, I think. Security says, "Sir, you need to come with me." Now, at this point, I'm worried. I asked why, and he says, "We've been informed that you've traveled overseas with no passports or visa of any sort." At this, I say to him, "Wait, but I didn't travel overseas. My flight was from JFK to DKI. I never even left the country." Out of nowhere, I hear Karen chime in saying, "See, he admitted it. He flew from America to Hawaii with no passport. Arrest him." So at this point, I realized that she was angry at me for whatever reason, and she decided to describe my appearance to an officer so they could find me, so she could accuse me of illegal immigration within my own country. Thankfully, the security officer realized that she's literally just an idiot, and he lets me go and has her stay. I exit the office and find my friend Sam, who arrives during this ordeal. I'm sorry guys, that was way too funny. He realizes that she's an idiot. Yeah, so first off, the entitlement on the plane demanding OP serve her when he's not working was already pretty outrageous. But then lying to try to get OP in trouble when you're a dummy is even more outrageous. Sir, arrest him. He flew from America to Hawaii without a passport. Guys, I would have paid money to see the looks on everybody's faces when she shouted that. Like, can you get in trouble for making wild accusations like that? Okay, so this happened a couple of hours ago, but I'm finally getting to take a break and post about it. So our HOA built a fence around the neighborhood, the lowest bidder type situation. It looks okay. It's reddish colored, it's tall enough, but the boards are flimsy. It's been a few years and starting to fall apart. There's nails missing, boards fell off, so I let the HOA know about it a few months ago. I've hammered a few boards in to keep my dogs safe when I let them out, but mostly I've been waiting for them to fix it. Needless to say, they haven't touched it in months. So I noticed one of the panels had come loose. There's no nails in the upper and middle part, just one in the bottom. Anybody could have pulled on the fence to walk right into my backyard. So I say enough is enough and I go out to fix it all. I replace the boards that have fallen from the outside. I put the panels back together and get a solid fence line. My house backs up to a busy street, and when the red light is on, the cars back up all the way past my house area. I'm on the outside of my fence trying to get nail holes to line up and screwing things into place when I become aware of honking noises. Now before I take off my headphones, a large cup of melted ice and watered down soda slams into the fence next to me and it splashes the contents on my right side, soaking my shirt and some of my pants. Needless to say, I'm startled. I then pull out my headphones and look at the street. The light's green, but a husband and lady are holding up traffic. Apparently they're trying to yell at me to get my attention. When the yelling failed, the lady in the passenger seat thought throwing a cup of half-full drink at me was a good way of getting my attention. And it worked. Now at this point, I'm looking at her with a what the F look, and cars are driving around them honking. I didn't even get to say anything before she starts screeching at me. Apparently, she says I need to get off my ass and move down to her fence. She's tired of her fence being crap and no one fixing it. And how dare we ignore her fence and start down here? There were no apologies, no civility, just a harpy screeching and throwing her stuff at people, and blocking traffic for everybody else. Now I'm usually a really nice person, but I'm done with being yelled at for things and putting up with ignorance, so I didn't try to hold back my anger. I put my drill down, grab my water, and take a few steps towards them. Attempting to cut her off, I say the obligatory, I don't work here, I live here. Now I attempted. She and her husband aren't listening. They're both still going off about their fence and lazy, useless employees in the HOA. I unscrew the large cap of my water bottle and the water splashes on my fingers. It's ice cold. I finally yell, I do not work here. F off. At this, both of their faces go full pucker. As the lady draws a breath to start to shriek again, I toss the contents of my water bottle towards their open window. She gets a decent bit to the face, which shuts her up. I doubt I got the hubby, but enough water went into the SUV, so I know he's annoyed. I then shout at them, if you ever throw something at me again, I will beat you. The husband goes to jump out of the SUV, but he's only 5'6", 150 pounds tops, and I'm 6'1", around 300 pounds. The guy just yells at me but didn't try to make contact. I responded with a finger, and he got back into his vehicle and flew off with a tire screeching. The F-bombs were glorious, and I shouldn't be surprised at the way people treat people on the job. But did they think that going off and yelling at people would actually succeed, let alone throwing a cup of old soda at me? Guys, I love that OP responded with throwing his water into their SUV, as he should. Like, what the heck is wrong with some people? Like, even if OP was a worker, what a stupid thing for them to do. Yeah, let's just throw a soda at someone who's gonna be fixing our fence. Great idea, Karen. That's gonna get your fence fixed for sure. So I was heading to a toy store because they had informed me that they had a new dinosaur model in stock. So I go to the store wearing a red shirt because I felt like it. And normally the toy store workers wear red, but they also have name tags on. So you know where this is going. So I enter the store and asked if they have the new dinosaur model, and they point me in the right direction. I then see the model among other models, and I get my hands on it. When I take it off the shelf, a lady says to me, "Oh, thank you. I can take it from here." I then turn around to see this lady that looks like she's in her late 30s, holding out her hand to me, expecting me to just plop the dinosaur in her hands. I was looking confused for a moment, and then she gets frustrated and asked me if I was hard of hearing. I then asked her why she wanted me to hand it over, and asked what she meant, as I wasn't an employee. I suddenly got her assumption and told her that no, I don't work here, I'm just a customer. She then fumed and pointed out that I was wearing the same shade of red as the workers. I responded that red is not exclusive to this store, and if she'd excuse me, I was gonna purchase the dinosaur model. She then gets intrusive and starts asking why an adult would collect dinosaur models. I responded that people are allowed to have hobbies and tried to move on. Now, apparently not satisfied with my answer, she blocked me and she freaking snatched the dinosaur out of my hands and she goes to the counter. Now at this, I was about to shrug my shoulders and go grab the spares, not wanting to escalate until I realized that she had also taken the other models on the shelf. I was a little bit infuriated by this, but I kept my calm and went to the counter and asked her to give it back. I then told the people at the counter that she had snatched the model out of my hands. They then asked her if this was true, and she actually told the truth because I was being a bad employee, lying about the model I wanted for myself and not providing good customer service. Now, the counter workers who had seen me enough times as a consistent buyer pointed out to the lady that I wasn't a worker, and then she gets huffy. She then said that she was a proper purchaser because she was getting them for a kid, that an adult should not be playing with these types of toys, that maybe if I wasn't collecting them, I would properly become an adult. So one of the counter workers called the store owner, who came to ask what was going on. After explaining, he had a frown on his face and he went to check the security footage. After seeing that she had snatched it out of my hands and had escalated the situation, he ordered her to give me my model or else he'd have her ousted from the store. Now, the owner's a pretty big guy, so she withered under his gaze a bit and then gave me my model. I calmly thanked her and the store people, but I will admit, I did enjoy seeing her crumple at the sight of a very annoyed burly guy. And now I have this particular model in my collection. Now that is some stupid, crazy entitled BS. How the heck did she know that OP wasn't buying it for a child at home like she was? And I feel so bad for her kids because mom clearly lives under a rock if she thinks people can't have hobbies because they're of a certain age. Okay, some background. So back then, I lived in a small town of about 3,000 people, and I worked for the Blue Wall of Marts in the US, in the photoelectronics area. The way our store was set up, the department square was in the middle of two sets of double doors, leading into the back room. One of them led into the general storage area, and the other back to where our maintenance crew would keep the supplies and machines like the floor buffer. Now, being so close to this area, we would often be asked to poke our heads in the back to look for maintenance members on occasion, especially one really awesome guy who we'll call Kyle. Now, Kyle was one of the most dedicated workers we had, always willing to pitch in when needed, responded to issues when told about them, and generally kept the store looking damn near immaculate. However, if you needed Kyle for anything, you would need to go find him in person. You see, Kyle is completely deaf, so paging over the intercom wasn't an option, and cell phones weren't allowed on the floor, so we would often be asked to go check if he was in the back or the maintenance area. Eventually, our blue box store got a new competitor in town, the Red Bullseye store. With the new opening, I decided to throw my resume over there to see if I could land some sort of supervisor or management position there, and lo and behold, I was hired as an assistant manager. It was great. I loved the new challenges at my job, and in a small town like that, having two places to shop was more of a windfall than you might think. If one store sold out of a particular item, there was a good chance that the other one might have it, or something similar. Eventually, this happened to me. After my shift, I went back to the blue box store to grab something, and ran into Kyle. Having not seen him for several months, I stopped to see how he was. We spent maybe 5 or 10 minutes catching up, jotting down quick notes to each other in his notepad since I didn't speak American Sign Language, before I needed to move on to finish my shopping. As I was shopping in the next aisle over, I began to hear a voice from the other side of the shelves. The voice of a Karen, and she was getting louder and more entitled. Now, I knew the only person she could be yelling at was Kyle, so I quickly walked back to the other side, to see Kyle just looking at this banshee as she starts to shriek at him, and then he sees me and tries to wave me over. Now, this was the conversation. Karen was screaming at him saying, "Don't you ignore me. I told you, you need to go look in the back to see if they have any more." I then walked up behind her and said, ma'am, you don't need to shout like that. Karen immediately cuts me off and says, "Hey, this doesn't concern you." I tell her, "Ma'am, I'm just trying to help." She says, "I don't need your help. I need this little idiot to stop acting dumb and do his effing job." Now at this, I'm kind of getting annoyed now, and I say, "Listen, this person's not dumb, he's deaf. He literally can't hear what you're saying." At this, Karen says, "Deaf? Now why in the world would they hire insert R word here? That's the dumbest effing thing ever. I refuse to shop at a place that keeps these people on staff. I'll find this at the other store." At this, I say to her, "No, lady, you won't. You won't find it there because you're not going to be shopping there. And you certainly won't be allowed back here either, I'm sure." Karen shrieks, "You don't even work here. That's what you think." I tell her, "You're right, I don't, but I did work here and I still know the management team." Between Kyle's statement and me as a witness, this level of abuse is probably more than enough to get you banned. I know, because it'd be enough to get you banned from my store. And I plan on reporting this to my store manager. If this is how you treat employees, we don't want you in there. Now at this, Karen says, "We'll just see about that," and she storms off in a rage. I checked to make sure Kyle was okay, and he was, and we both walked back to the management office where we gave our statements to the store manager. This Karen had caused problems in the store before, and the store manager had agreed that she wouldn't be allowed back in. After that, I called my boss to let her know what happened. I then provided a description of the lady, and my manager told me that she'd keep an eye out for her. On my next shift, I found out that the lady did come to our store, and when she was asked to leave, she threw such a temper tantrum that loss prevention guy threatened to call police to have her trespassed if she didn't leave immediately. She then starts complaining about where she was expected to shop now, but loss prevention told her that wasn't his concern. But if she wanted to get any shopping done at our company, she'd best start driving. The nearest sister store to us was the next town over, nearly 25 miles away, and it closed in just under half an hour. Guys, I love how she was banned from both stores in that little town. Have fun having to drive 25 miles when you need something, Karen. You definitely deserve it after that. Now, I hate that this is my second post here, but that's what happens when you work the same retail job for a couple of years. So my work happens to be my regular grocery store. I like shopping there on my grocery day because I get a ton of freebies and discounts. On this particular Saturday, I decided to do my weekly shopping before starting a new work week of being verbally abused for 13 bucks an hour. Now, I should make it clear here, I wasn't in my regular work clothes. As I set my orange juice in my cards, I can feel someone staring at me. It's the kind of intense stare that you only feel after they've been checking you out for a good few minutes or so. I then turn around to see this customer that I recognize immediately. She comes by nearly every day for little random household items or weird little overpriced succulents. She's got some poorly behaved little kids too, but they weren't there with her, and she's a Karen. So I turned back around, figuring that she didn't have anything to say to me. She didn't ask me a question, didn't tell me if I dropped something, nothing. So I go back to shopping and start debating which almond milk is less crappy when I feel her staring at me again. This time, I made it a point to turn back around and make eye contact with her. She says, "It's about time you noticed me. I don't know what happened to the employees here. Everybody used to be so nice. Now you people barely acknowledge a loyal customer. I shouldn't have to address you first." She then proceeds to walk up to me, cross her arms like she's my mom or something. Now look, I'm a young guy. I started working here as a teenager, so I'm used to being talked down to, and this lady just bothered me a lot. I tell her, "Miss, I helped you out a few days ago. If there's a question you have that I can quickly answer, I will, but I'm on my day off. I'm not supposed to work when I'm not clocked in." She then looks at me like I just spoke a foreign language, and she huffs, "You shouldn't be in here if it's your day off. Besides, I'm still a customer and I come in when you're working." At this point, I'm beginning to get irritated. Normally, I wave them off, but because I'm not in my work clothes, I have the freedom to be a little bit bitchier. I say to her, "I understand that you see me during my shifts, but this isn't one of them. You're trying to make me work on a day I have off, and I don't get many of them. Technically, I shouldn't be helping you out like I originally offered. Thank you for reminding me." I then shove the almond milk back on the cooler rack and walk away. She then left to complain with the manager immediately. They called me up to the front thinking I was on shift. When I explained what happened, my manager just laughed at the lady. She's always been a bit of a problem customer, so we never really bother with her complaints anymore. She even threatened to call corporate, so my manager wrote down the number and dared her to call them. My manager then said something along the lines of, "Go for it. While you're at it, tell them what you told my employee. They'll love to know that you tried to harass him." The Karen still shops there, but she actively avoids me when I'm a cashier or bagging. Not a very exciting story, but it still cracks me up. So basically what OP's telling us is that he defeated this Karen and he's still winning to this day. Love it. Some people just have no respect for retail workers, guys. Like, yeah, OP works there and you see them on a daily basis, but at least have the respect to treat them like a human being when you recognize that they're not on the clock. I also love how they don't take her complaints seriously anymore since she cried wolf one too many times. So this person shares their experience and he says, "I worked at a chain bookstore that had a cafe in it, and we would have this one customer who seemed to make it a goal to get an employee in trouble with management every week he came in. To their credit, it didn't take long for the managers to see it as BS, and they just told him that they would talk to the employee about it, but never did it. They didn't like dealing with him either, but he was a regular customer and he was never so egregious that they could justify kicking him out. But one day, an employee was on her day off and she had come in to buy some coffee from the cafe. While she was in line, the manager goes up to her and claims that she was giving him dirty looks and he was gonna get her fired. He then went to complain, but it didn't go the way he expected. Once the managers realized what happened, they told the man that they didn't tolerate customers harassing other customers, and he was banned from the store for life. And that's exactly what should have happened with this Karen. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, if you enjoyed these wacky stories today, do hit that like button. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, a vegan Karen calls 911 when accidentally served meat. It's such a crazy story, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.